I want to dedicate this video to my favorite coach, Brett Sutton. Right now, he lives in Australia. Anyone that is in triathlon know who Brett Sutton is. He's probably the greatest coach ever. Has won more gold medalists in the sport than many people. But I don't want to talk about Brett as the great, amazing coach that he is. But I want to talk about him and dedicate this video as the humanitarian and the great human being that he is, and the love that he has for so many people, especially those most impoverished. You see, one thing about Brett, a lot of the athletes that he gets have been broken, and when they come to him, he really reinvents them and makes them to great athletes. But I want to talk about the person and a topic that he and I talk often, which is about faith. He knows that I'm a Christian, that I'm very committed to my faith, and he's not there. But, you know, throughout the time and throughout our talks, and we spent a lot of time together in Cozumel, some of the best time I ever had in my life, you know, throughout our time that he starts thinking about faith. But I'm not here dedicating this video to my brother to convert him or anything like that, because God knows I can't do that for anybody. The only thing I can do in life is share my story. I want to talk about the humanitarian side. And I want to talk about how that humanitarian side of a man that doesn't consider himself a Christian, a man that perhaps does not believe in God, or perhaps might not even have much of a faith, to me is a greater human being than many men that I know that call themselves men of God. And really, in reality, they're out there on television, they're out there in public, and to me, they're nothing but a bunch of scumbags. And I mean, I'm real. Listen, I'm not perfect by no means. I try hard. But one thing I ain't, I'm not a fake. I tell people the way it is, whether they like it or not. I'm 64, and, you know, I just go on. So that's my life. And that's why I, you know, identify so much with Brett. See, we met one time. It was very interesting. I found out about a program that he had started in Brazil to help kids, that he took his Olympic swimmers to Brazil. And then he saw this kid by the fence. The kid didn't know how to swim. All he knew was how to run from the police. Didn't know much about anything, but Brett took him over. Eventually, long story, he ended up making him an Olympic medalist and probably the greatest triathlete in Brazil. Ronaldo Colucci, great young man. But so I found out about this program and I called them. And at that time he was living in Switzerland. And I said, you know, Mr. Sutton, I heard about your program. I want to talk to you about starting one in Mexico. He said to me, if you're serious, come see me, and hung up the phone. Well, I guess he did not realize that this Cuban takes things pretty serious. A month later, my wife and I were on our way to Switzerland, and we met with him. And there began a relationship that I cherish immensely. We created the program Tres Hermanos program in Cozumel. I Say No to Drugs, Obesity, and Violence, where we took kids just off the streets that were really struggling with either drugs, girls cutting themselves, and we brought them to a track. And we hired coaches for them, and they would run. And they got a white t-shirt that said, I say no to drugs, obesity, and violence. And then they would run every day. I posted pictures of these young people on a Friday night working their asses off. And then from there on, they would get points. See, because what was important to us was not to teach them how to be a great swimmer, runner, or biker, but was to teach them how to be a great human being. So therefore, the way you advance was not in how fast you came in, because see, for Brett and for myself, a winner was not the fastest and most gifted athlete. The winner was the person that had the greatest amount of integrity. And the big win was when you finish what you start. So we started this program, and they ended up getting points for being a good kid, getting better grades, letter from their parents, bringing someone. And if they were struggling with weight, we put a nutritionist. And if they lost weight, they got points. And as they gathered points, then they went to the green jersey, and we taught them how to swim. And then same methodology, they went to a red shirt, we gave them a bike, and now they became a triathlete. Great program. We ended up with 300 kids. But the part that I want to talk about, Brett, is we've talked a lot about, he knows, you know, how I came to faith, how I was an atheist. Probably that's why he and I identify. We both come from the streets. We both grew up around very tough people. And we both are men of honor. I consider Brett probably one of the most respectable and men of integrity I ever met in my life. That's why till today, we still stay in touch. And to me, it's a great, great joy. See, my journey with Brett is not to convert Brett to any faith or any belief. It's just to be his friend and to show him that, listen, a lot of people can be of all walks of life. And the most important thing in life is, I mean, to me, the most important thing in life is my personal relationship with Jesus. But to me, as I look at the world, that's not what I judge in a person. I judge as to how much of a person of integrity they are. I judge whether their yes is yes and their no is no. I judge when I see lies. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how much power you got. At one given moment, I had a lot of money and I was very, very powerful. It didn't make me happy. It didn't make me a good guy. See, I only became a good guy when I gave it all up. And when I realized that my joy was not found in all the power and money and women and cars and mansions and jets. My joy was found within myself. See, I realized that the richest person in the world is not the one that has the most, but the one that has the least. And see, this was something that always, always amazed me about Brett. If Brett, now he's doing very well, thank God, because his son, who has amazing talents, has teamed up and has brought to the world all this knowledge that this man had. But when I met Brett, he didn't have anything. And you know the truth is, he was so happy, much happier than many millionaires that I know. Because he struggles like all of us struggle, but the truth for Brett was his greatest joy came in seeing those kids at the track running. Not even in winning a gold medal at the Olympics as he did with Nicholas Spirit. Not even winning Kona many times with many, Daniela Riff and many other athletes that he has had. Yeah, that brought professional satisfaction, and it brought great satisfaction if those athletes were at one time not going many places in life, but now we're living up to the great potential. He's an unbelievable coach, but above all, he's an unbelievable person. And see, we talked about that. For him, he said something to me that was very profound. He said, you know, the leap from atheism to faith, sometimes it's just too big for many, many to take. And I know it because it was for me. See, I had the privilege of having someone preach to me for 3.5 years. Above all, it wasn't what he said to me about God. It was that he showed me that he was so full of joy and happiness because he had a personal relationship with Jesus. And that's weird for me. What the hell could I have a relationship with someone that don't even exist? And it was only in my moment of greatest desperation when I had tried to find joy and meaning to my life in everything the world had to offer that I decided to surrender. And see, and that's where faith begins, the journey. Because it does not begin in saying, yesterday, I don't believe in nothing, and today, oh, I'm totally sold out for God, I believe in God. No. When I made that leap, it wasn't because I believed. I made that leap out of desperation because my life was empty. And I just couldn't find joy in anything, and I had everything the world offered. So my leap was not from nothing, from atheism, to being a born-again Christian. My leap was from emptiness to let me, what do I got to lose? And it was a long process. When I first decided to turn my life over to God, I was convinced that God did not exist. And if he did exist, he looked at me and said, I am so bad. Now, why? I don't even want you up here. Stay down there. I was convinced that the horrors I had done were irredeemable. And I was fine. Because I was convinced I was going to die before the age of 25. I didn't give a damn. But when I finally saw my little daughter leave that ranch that day when our divorce was over from her mom, and I realized that my life was over, man. This is the only thing sacred in my life, and I just can't do nothing right. And I chose to take that leap. I remember the day, it was just like today. I got on my knees, and I said, God, it was July 1st, about 10:30 in the morning. I said, God, if you're real, I don't believe you exist. That's number one. Number two, if you do exist, I want you to know that you're probably looking at me and saying, George, you're so bad, there's no hope for you. And I accept that. Because see, I'm not one of those guys that did bad and said, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. I got caught. No, bullshit. I was very real. What I was doing was going to get me to hell, and I had no problem going there. That's where all my friends were. So why should I care? I said, but God, if you really are the reason that man, Tim Brooks, my karate instructor, is full of joy, their marriage is unbelievable, and they have nothing. To me, their life was die-hard poverty. No, they lived a regular middle-class life. They have one car, little 1,200 square foot house. The car was old, but they were full of joy and happiness because they had impacted so many lives through his karate teachings. And now, without them knowing, they had impacted mine. And I said, God, I'll surrender to you. But change my heart or kill me. And there began the journey. See, that was the leap. The leap was from being an atheist, having no choice, running out of options, to say, I'll give you a shot. And then the journey began. I began to read the Bible. And I had a privilege. I was in prison. I had nothing else to do. So I read the Bible hours and hours and hours at a time. And I didn't know where to start. So I started just reading the Gospel of John. And I read it over and over and over again. And then what was really interesting was when this little pastor that used to come to the prison there in Mobile, Alabama, said to me, he said, he says, you want to be set free? And I looked at it and I said to myself, what an idiot. How do you tell a prisoner that he wants to be set free? Of course. He said, then read 10 chapters a day. I read 20, just in case his mathematics was not that good. And I read, and I read, and I read. Now I don't tell people read 10 chapters a day. I tell them just read one chapter. Don't look at the Bible as nothing but a book of morals. Forget about that it's a book of faith. Forget about all the things that later on in life I began to believe that it was the spoken word of God. Forget about all that. I began to read it simply, first as a historical book. I want to find out what happened throughout those times in history. Then I began to read as a book of morals. Wow. You know why? Because a moral person doesn't cheat on his wife. A moral person doesn't steal. A moral person doesn't rob, doesn't murder. A moral person doesn't decide what he does not have. And that's how I began to read it. And I remember that pastor saying to me, it's like if you watch cartoons all day long, Bugs Bunny cartoons, you know what's going to happen? After a while, every time you talk to someone, you're going to say, hey, what's up, doc? And that's how it's going to be because it's garbage in, garbage out. See, my mind and my head was full of garbage, full of just lust, horrific things. But then I started reading about how people really believed in this Jewish carpenter, that they believed that he had resurrected. They didn't believe he was God while he was alive. Ain't that interesting? They saw him do miracles. They saw him do all kinds of stuff. They didn't believe it. They all left. They all ran like cowards. But when he died and resurrected, the reason I'm so convinced it happened, because I can tell you this. I laid in the floor of a Panamanian jail willing to die because to me what I was dying for was the truth. My integrity, my word, my honor, the honor of my family. Many people, thousands and thousands, were killed, thrown to lions, burnt, because they refused to deny that they had seen the risen Savior. And that's interesting, because I know maybe 2-3 people would die for a lie, but most people will not lie for a lie. So then all of a sudden, my life began to change, because I started thinking about, wow, unbelievable, how people were willing to sacrifice their lives, their family, their children. And yet here I am. All I've lived is for myself. My mind started to change. I started to really care more about others. You see, I thought I cared a lot about others. I did, because I used to give out thousands and thousands of dollars every Friday to help poor people. But I gave them out of my excess. I never gave out of what I needed. Now, suddenly, if I had $5 and someone needed it, I give it to them. Even if it meant I go without it. And I give them a 10% of my income, even when the next 90% didn't seem like it would allow me to eat. But it did. It never failed me. I guess someone was right when he said, you just cannot give God. But getting back to my relationship with Brett and my leap of faith, it is that. It took years. It took years for me to be convinced, yeah, that God is real, that He loves me. And and I went through all kinds of changes. I wanted to convert everybody till I realized I didn't die for no one. I wasn't going to die for anyone, so I wasn't going to convert anyone. But then I began to realize that the most important thing was to love others, to let others win. Sometimes I would have to lose to let others win because that's what I felt God done for me. He lost His son, died, and crucified, so that I would have life. So therefore, I saw that. And I started crying for those women raising children by themselves. And Brett and I talk so much about all this, different subjects. And I admire the men tremendously. And this is my Christmas gift to him. To my real brother, whom I love more than many, many people I have ever loved in my life. A man that I believe is a real man. Ain't perfect, I'm sure. Many people will give you horror stories about him because he is tough. But his heart is right. And that is my message, not to Brett now, but to the whole world. There are many Brett Suttons out there that don't believe in God and don't believe in and have no faith. And I understand. I understand clearly. And my job is not to convert or convince anyone of either of those two things that are true for me. But it's simply to share a story. How the unbelievable love of a Jewish carpenter transformed the life of the most hardened heart. The life of an atheist. That's all I care to say. I don't care if people are gay, straight, trisexual, Muslim, Jewish, no faith, rich or nothing. I couldn't care less. But all I care to do in my life and what I feel is my mission is to tell people his story of my life. How that love of a Jewish carpenter can transform the most hardened of all hearts. Because the truth of the matter is, that's what the world, just like the old Beatles song, what the world needs is love. Oh God, does the world need love now more than ever? Look at the hatred and division around the world. But how about our country? Even among family members, over one man, President of the United States, who would not die for anyone, who would not give anything to anyone, who wouldn't care about destroying our country. But yet, we follow him, and some people say unto death. I doubt it. But yet, the real man that died for us, that loved me when I was a sinner, not now that I'm halfway decent guy, when I was a sinner. That love transformed my life. And that's why I would take Brett Sutton over any religious person I know. Because what you see with Brett is what you get. And I know that, and I understand that, and I love that. Not from a lot of other people. So today, a few days before Christmas, my brother Brett Sutton, have a Merry Christmas. I wish I wanted to tell you that I wish I could be there with you, but that would be a lie, and I don't lie because I hate the cold weather. I'm not an Eskimo. But I wish that we were both in Cozumel, drinking some tequila and telling stories, all war stories. Love you, brother. Be blessed. Blessings to your family, to your beautiful and gorgeous wife who's been there by your side through the thick and thin. Our wives are a great gift from God to us. I want to let you know that because not too many people can put up with us. But Fiona is a great woman, and your two daughters are like my daughters. So I love you, brother, from my family to you and to all other people out there. Merry Christmas, and God be blessed.